Hello everyone, we're back in the lab again, cooking up another video for you, and this time we got something a little different from what we usually put out there. This is more of a discussion, topical, I guess you would say, video, because this weekend that this video is coming out, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, has his latest big action adventure, blockbuster, Rampage, which is just based on the video game, and that's gonna probably win the box office, I would say.
For this week.
For this weekend. And it is coming pretty much on the heels of, I feel like The Rock's movies are always on the heels of another Rock movie that does really well.
Jesus.
Jumanji just became Sony's biggest movie they've ever made, bigger than the Spider-Man movies and everything.
Yeah.
And now he's got this one coming out, and he has that Skyscraper movie also coming out very soon. And we're just kind of thinking it's a good time to talk about The Rock because we have some thoughts on it.
Yeah, last weekend me and Johnny were just kind of talking, and we always talk about movies and stuff anyway, but we were specifically talking about, I feel like we should call him Dwayne Johnson, but I'm just going to call him The Rock.
With respect.
I really don't think he would give a shit if I called him The Rock. Yeah. We were talking about The Rock, and we were just saying, it seems like he's wasting his career. That's just what was just the overall thought, which sounds really stupid because he's one of the most successful actors of all time.
Tons of money. Lots of people see his movies. But could he be doing more? Could he be doing, and not more because he already does so many movies, but could he be doing stuff that is a little bit better?
Everybody knows The Rock as The Rock, Dwayne Johnson as The Rock from the WWF/WWE days when he was, he's from a wrestling family, obviously, he came up through there. His likability, his charisma, he's a handsome guy. That made him one of the top guys in professional wrestling in the 90s and even the early 2000s.
Yeah, he was the king on the mic.
Yeah.
And Dan would know more about this than I would, because even though I was a big wrestling fan growing up, I wasn't, he's older than me and he was actually lived through that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, that is where he got his fame and how he did get into the movies, though.
Yeah, that certainly opened up a lot of people, for some reason, still say, wrestling is fake. No shit. But, they are acting. And I was actually listening to Chris Jericho's podcast at one time, and he was, doing auditions for movies and TV. And they were like, oh, do you have any acting experience? And he was like, yeah.
Do you know who I am?
He was like, I've been a professional wrestler for 20 years. Yeah. So, obviously, The Rock has had, thousands and thousands of scenes, quote unquote, before he even got into movies. But,
yeah.
I think that certainly opened up the doorway to him as a celebrity, and it just made the transition easier. His first appearance that I really remember outside of professional wrestling was when he was in the Mummy series. He was the Scorpion King, and I think how big that scene was and how popular it was, I don't know if, obviously at the time there was much more limited information, but I don't know if they were planning on making a Scorpion King movie before that, but they ended up making the Scorpion King a film.
With him. As the centerpiece.
Yeah. As the centerpiece, the main character. That was the first time I saw him in that role. Obviously that was a success as well. After that...
Yeah, and this was 17 years ago, right about now. And, these movies, the Mummy movies weren't acclaimed or massive films, but they're pretty popular. And then that kind of let him get his foot in the door. And then he had some smaller films The
Rundown,
Walking Tall,
2004 came out.
Yeah, some smaller action, thriller type movies. And then as it gets into the mid 2000s and stuff, he kind of expanded a little bit more, where he wanted to become more involved with kids movies and stuff. And so he did things I remember The Game Plan was a huge movie when I was a kid, and also stuff like The Tooth Fairy.
Race to Witch Mountain was, I remember, one that I remember from obviously 2006, 2007.
Yeah, and that also has, if you've ever seen the meme where he's looking in the back seat and the girl's back there, and they use that for certain memes. But that was kind of that little part. And then kind of this decade, starting around 2011, he really kind of, because at that point he wasn't a box office draw necessarily, even though he was a movie star.
I think he was. I mean, obviously, The Scorpion King came out in 2002, and all the way up until 2010 when The Tooth Fairy came out, he was just kind of dabbling every other year in a wide release film that wasn't necessarily going to be huge, a $500 million.
Yeah, right.
That all changed in 2000. I think it was 2011. Yeah, 2011 was when Fast 5 came out.
And that's I think that really is a huge turning point, as you're about to say, because what was significant about Fast Five was it was an established franchise that had been making money already, and then you introduce this new character played by Dwayne Johnson, and he is so charismatic, and in this character Hobbs, he just kind of he takes that movie to the next level almost a little bit on his own, which is kind of crazy because it's already kind of an ensemble with Vin Diesel and Paul Walker and those guys. But
yeah, that series has created a lot of stars and pulled in stars that were already established and just solidified them or made them even bigger. Even though the series might not be the best.
Yeah, and another thing about the Fast films is that they have international appeal. Whereas stuff like The Tooth Fairy and The Game Plan and these other smaller films are more like for American audiences. But with Fast Five, it takes place in Rio, and it has, it does really well in places like Brazil and overseas and in these other larger, foreign markets. And so that gives him more exposure and like puts him out there. And then it's from that point forward, he starts doing these other bigger movies and becomes like a big draw.
This is also a turning point physically for him. This kind of sounds kind of
You're right. No, you're totally right. Yeah.
Because if you go back and look at like some pictures from like the mid to even late 2000s, he's in really good shape.
He's amazing.
He's really like slender. Like
he's kind of like
skinny face,
kind of like almost like Cam Newton.
When you go into even skinnier than Cam, probably. When you go into Fast Five and what's the movie with Wahlberg?
Pain and Gain.
Pain and Gain.
Yeah, when he's the bodybuilder.
Yeah, Fast Six, and
he gets jacked.
His face went from like skinny to like literally round. He was literally gigantic. That goes all the way through to all the Fast and Furious movies that have been out since then. I mean, he's just, I don't know why he ramped up at that time or obviously he was getting bigger for those movies, action adventure movies, but that was just the turning point in his career where he went from just a kind of like a bit player, I would say, to a Hollywood megastar. Was in that time frame from 2011 to 2013, 14. And
you're right. And like you said, it's not just the Fast movies that he was doing. He was doing other small things. He did the Pain and Gain movie, which was Michael Bay, had Mark Wahlberg. That got, that was pretty big.
He was in Journey 2, Snitch, G.I. Joe Retaliation, Empire State, Pain and Gain, Fast 6.
He did that Hercules movie.
Hercules. He was in Fast 7, San Andreas.
And then, so that it's then in the last like 3 to 4 years, I would say. Because like I said, he had 2011 was Fast 5, his first appearance in that franchise. Then a few years later, around 2015, you had the things like the Fast 7 came out, which had the Paul Walker death, and that was like that movie made over $1 billion at the box office. The Rock was a huge part of that. And then you had San Andreas, and San Andreas was kind of like the first blockbuster that he put out that was his movie, totally his movie. He didn't have Vin Diesel or Paul Walker or any of these other Ludacris and
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, and so he does San Andreas, and it's just a big kind of Roland Emmerich disaster movie, Roland Emmerich style. And then in recent years, and then like you said, just right now, last year he had Fast 8 come out, which was another huge hit, made over $1 billion again.
Moana, Central Intelligence.
Central Intelligence, another huge hit which was essentially not a mid-budget at best. Made a bunch of money, and then like you were saying, Moana, he did the voice for Maui in that film.
That was obviously
another huge hit, and that's another example of him. He really did embody that character. By lending his voice and the singing and stuff, and then now he has, like we said, Rampage coming out this weekend, which isn't getting very good reviews, but it's probably gonna make a lot of money. Jumanji just came out, like we said, in December,
and that'll get a sequel.
Even though that came out in the heels of The Last Jedi, which was a massive film, obviously, it has made $900 million, and which is just mind-boggling, because so many people were like, no one needs a sequel for Jumanji. Oh my God, The Rock's gonna make this freaking movie with Jack Black and Kevin Hart, and it's just like, who wants that? And then it makes $900 million with The Rock like leading the way. So that's just my perspective, I guess I would say, and how I'm feeling right now with The Rock. But how do you feel? Like, what is your opinion, I guess, with all this?
So yeah, he's definitely had 3 phases to his career. Since he's become an actor or celebrity or whatever you want to say. Played football, then professional wrestling, then kid/bit player type, and then he became a megastar as the biggest actor in the world probably right now. I mean, can you think of anybody that is as big as him right now, or as marketable, or as bankable?
As bankable? No,
absolutely not.
No,
Definitely not.
No.
So, I think that is like that because he is so likable. Everybody
he's very likable. Yeah,
he's a handsome guy. I think he's literally the perfect person when you're looking at who do guys want to look like. Of course, a big jacked up professional wrestler / actor.
Yeah.
And who do women want to be with? Obviously, a good, handsome looking dude
with a bunch of money.
With a lot of money. So
and he's funny, and all these
that's another thing. I think he is so likable because he is funny, but he can also be a badass.
Yeah, he plays. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
He plays all those parts since 2011 that can be funny, have those comedic moments, but also can be an absolute badass and is believable in that role.
Yeah, and also one of his the qualities that has lent itself so well to these movies that he's done is he's a team player. He can carry a movie on his own, like San Andreas was really, and I feel like Rampage as well. You have these other actors like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Naomi, and all these other things, but it's with him in the Fast movies, for example, or Central Intelligence with Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is he draws in an audience for the most part, and people know him very well, and so. But he worked with that dynamic with Kevin Hart, and they worked to make that movie as good as they could have. And the same thing with the Fast and Furious movies. He's the newcomer, and these people have been together for so long and all this stuff. But he finds a way to still make his own imprint without disrupting what's going on.
And again, this is no disrespect to The Rock. We love him. We love it.
Yeah.
We like most of his movies, if not think they're really good. But to the point here.
I don't know if I've ever said any of the movies he's ever been in have been really good.
Some of the Fast movies are really good.
They're good, yeah.
So, to the whole point of him wasting his career, he's not wasting his career in the fact that he's the most marketable person in the world.
And he has all these movies that he's made.
Exactly. But what we mean is, I guess, and my point that I've been, trying to make this whole time, he's not progressing. All of his movies now at this point are big budget, seemingly. With some comedy thrown in there. Green screen out the ass.
A bunch of CGI clusterfucking.
Story's not the best.
Yeah, the characters are so...
They're popcorn movies, that's what it is. They're summer popcorn movies for the most part.
I'm going to push back on that, though. I hate when people say, it's a popcorn movie. It's a popcorn movie.
They are popcorn
What the fuck does that mean? The Mission Impossible movies are great, and those are popcorn movies.
I don't think they are.
They're not high art or anything. They're just great blockbuster filmmaking. The same thing with Spielberg, back in the day. Jurassic Park, it's a popcorn movie, but it's really, really well done. It's one of the best blockbusters ever
Well,
made.
again, we're just getting caught up in a phrase, but I don't think any of those movies are popcorn movies. But that doesn't even matter.
I feel okay, anyway.
That doesn't even matter, whatever.
that's another video for...
We'll make it, what's a popcorn movie at some point. But no... When I say he's wasting his career, I just mean I feel like he's not progressing. I do remember when, I can't remember which film it was, it might have been Snitch, but he was doing an interview basically for the movie saying that, one day I want to win an Academy Award, and I want to continue progressing, and I want to be comedic, and I want to be,
And how long ago was that?
It was in 2010, 11 maybe?
Shit, damn.
Maybe 2012.
So it's been at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it's been 5 to 6 years, let's say at least. So I just think it's interesting that he's done that, but then he also got in this groove to where he's making these big budget movies, and now he does branch out to do Moana type movies.
Which is good, yeah.
Central Intelligence. They're not all Fast and the Furious type, Transformer type movies. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I feel like if he had continued the progression that he was doing at one point, he could be in some of these movies that potentially he could be getting some nominations for. Is he the greatest actor in the world? Obviously not.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would
argue that
he was Daniel Day-Lewis or something.
Yeah. No, but I do think you're right. I think he said I want to win an Academy Award or whatever.
I think he has the skill to do it.
Is that realistic? Maybe not, but he hasn't taken the initiative to put himself even in close to the position of being in a film where Pain and Gain wasn't a blockbuster, wasn't an action movie. And so, in one respect, I feel like that is the closest he's gotten, just because Mark Wahlberg is also a pretty damn good actor in general, regardless of how you feel about him. But Michael Bay obviously isn't winning Best Director or getting nominations like that or anything. But I just wish that he would do smaller movies like that don't rely on him, jumping through glass and off of buildings and all these other shooting guns and all these other things.
I feel like he just falls back on that. And again, I don't blame him. I guess when you land on a cash cow, you just want to milk it for it is.
And he's a hard worker.
He's in his he's 40.
Late 40s probably?
Yeah, he's not...
He's getting older.
He's not a spring chicken anymore, so maybe he doesn't want to take the risk considering he's banking tens of millions of dollars every movie. So I don't know if he wants to do smaller films or not, but I guess... I could see him like... This is going to sound really stupid, but I was thinking about... I'm trying to think of comparisons. The movie with Miles Teller. Mm-hmm.
It's about Whiplash?
Whiplash. Just I was picturing in my head, I was like, could I see a Rock... Oh, you have to use your imagination, obviously. But if The Rock lost, like... 30 pounds or 40 pounds and like maybe try to grow his hair out.
Are you talking about playing J.K. Simmons' character?
Yeah, like I could see him doing that.
Yeah.
He could do that. If he like...
Because he's so talented like vocally.
Yeah.
With just the way he, can talk and like say lines and stuff.
And he has shown he can be like that angry or like heroic type or even a comedic character. Like I feel like he could nail any of those, and that's what that character was for the most part.
And yeah, J.K. Simmons won an Oscar.
I was trying to think of something. I was like, if he lost like 30...
I never ever would have thought.
If he grew his hair out a little bit and had some glasses and just lost like a little bit of his muscle mass, like I feel like he could be that character.
No, that's a really good point. They're definitely just... It's just a matter, I think, of looking for those roles and wanting to do it. But also, you mentioned he's getting kind of older, and so... I guess I'll say right now what I'm about to say is in his defense of this a little bit. He is still in his physical prime, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
But maybe he's doing all this stuff right now, and then in 5 or 10 years when he can't do all these things anymore, then that'll be like a transition to another point of his career where he will do smaller movies that are more... It's more character driven and the writing's better and that kind of thing. And maybe then that is when he'll have that stretch where maybe that is a possibility of something like that.
I could see that. I mean, I could see him...
But now he's getting his money, is basically what he's doing, right? Like, the money's there. Let me get as much as I can. I'm going to do, this movie that's $200 million and this and this. And
I could just see him in some of these, like, not single-person roles, because a lot of these movies that, like a Silver Linings Playbook or Whiplash or even, like, an American Sniper type, all those have, like, other supporting characters.
Good supporting characters.
Obviously, but they were based off of maybe, like, 1 or 2 specific people in the movie. I could see him in any of those roles, honestly, and get some type of something for it. Nomination, I guess you could say. I just remember that, like, he wanted to do... get an Academy Award at some point, and I just don't think he's necessarily taking those steps. You're not going to win an Academy Award for being in Skyscraper.
No, you're right. So this is another part of the video where I just want to bring up a comparison. The closest thing we can come up with comparisons for The Rock is he was a wrestler that got into acting, and now he does acting for the most part. John Cena,
he's transitioning, yeah.
He is kind of in that transition. I'm trying to think of movies he's done. The first movie I ever remember him doing was this a WWE film or whatever? It was The Marine.
The Marine, yeah. That was a WWE film.
And
I actually have the DVD.
Yeah, and that was, it's not good or anything. But that was like the first thing I remember him doing. And then in recent years, he had the bit role in Trainwreck. He's definitely a comedic actor, for right now at least. He did Trainwreck. He just had a new movie come out called Blockers. Which got pretty good reviews and it is doing pretty well, but I'll be curious to see what he does, like John Cena. I think who do you think is the better actor between those two?
It's kind of hard to say. I think The Rock has been in
so many more, obviously.
Yeah, he's been in so many more movies. John Cena, I could see being a good actor because he's obviously hilarious.
He has the charisma.
He's getting more and more experience. I really liked his character, and it was Amy Poehler and Tina Fey's movie. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but they went to their parents' house. One of their parents was...
I think I know what you're talking about.
And he was like a drug dealer.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. Yeah, Cena's legitimately hilarious.
He's very funny. Okay, and then the other example I want to use, an actor that I think is better than either of them, that was a wrestler. Who am I going to say? And he's picking better projects. For big projects that are getting a lot of attention.
Who are you talking about?
Dave Bautista.
Holy fuck! He's
Dave Bautista, one of my favorite wrestlers, because that was in my time when I was growing up, about 10 years after The Rock. And never would have guessed that because I remember in his like Revolution days and stuff like that, eventually he became a big champ.
Evolution.
Evolution with Triple H and Ric Flair and those guys. But I never would have guessed he could ever get into movies, like have big roles or anything like that, or be in serious big movies. But he
is actually not wasting his...
Yes, right.
He's doing what I would think The Rock would
The Rock should do.
Yeah.
And no, you're right, because the first thing that comes to mind is Guardians. Mm-hmm. Guardians of the Galaxy came out in 2014, the first one, and he plays Drax, and he's one of a main character in that ensemble. And he was really good. And Drax is such a weird character. It's not a typical movie character, like, you know, a normal human being, obviously. He's an alien, but he has he has to, like, his delivery has to be very specific because of Drax's, you know, speech patterns and stuff, and he's very blunt and doesn't understand humor or sarcasm or anything like that. And he really nails that. So yeah, I just think that The Rock, you know, should have that motivation, just go a little, branch out, do all these other things, but he can still make the money and do those other types of movies as well.
I agree. We obviously say this with love. We love The Rock and his movies. What's your favorite Rock movie?
Maybe Fast 7, just because I love James Wan and they did well with Paul Walker, like ending.
Yeah, I agree. I say Fast 7 as well. Let us know what you think in the comments, guys. If you agree with us, if The Rock could be, you know, possibly doing a little bit more, maybe following the Dave Bautista path.
Or if you disagree, you know, also we'd love to have discussions down there. Leave a like, subscribe, check out other videos. We got more coming, of course. Infinity War is on the horizon.
And Rock, go win an Academy Award.
Go, Dwayne Johnson. We love you. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you, guys.